That number, 314-878-6868. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
Well, I thought springtime was here, but I woke up and it was 40 degrees, and it's going to be 38 degrees tomorrow morning, but it's already sunny and the temperature is climbing. How about yourself, sir?
It's beautiful and having a blast, and I had such a fun time with our last talk. It's almost like, where do we continue from there?
I know. Well, there's always more, and you're always learning more. There's always something else to be learned, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. So what did you get from our conversation on Tuesday?
Well, what I got from our conversation on Tuesday is if I was not a client of yours, I would feel a very strong urge and need to become one.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't even understand, and everything's so interlinked, and you can really see the health benefits of when you really get the system and the body and yourself working for your highest benefit. You can help fix and correct a lot of things that you thought were almost impossible.
Absolutely. And whatever people think is possible or not possible, that almost always turns out to be the outcome, doesn't it?
It does, and that's the thing is we're told. It's funny when we were in chiropractic school. One of the teachers that was there, he taught the philosophy class of chiropractic, and you get this when you're in your first classes, day one, and he's just like, okay, now almost all of you grew up in a allopathic, mechanistic family. So he kind of went over okay, who here has had vaccinations? Pretty much everybody raised their hand. One or two people had never had a vaccination. Who here has had some organ removed? About 20% of the class raised their hand, tonsils, appendix, stuff like that. Then he just kind of said, who here's taking antibiotics and this and that? Who here watches TV and is inundated by the commercials of pharmaceutical and this and that? And all these hands were raised. And it's okay, now, who here grew up in a family that always told you your body was self-healing, self-regulating, didn't need any help, and had all the power within itself to do all that it needed to do to heal itself? And
no hands.
No hands.
I know. That's expected.
No hands. He's okay, and you're in a profession now where that is law. Understanding that premise, that there's that intelligence within your body that completely heals you from all pain, suffering, and disease within your life is in you, is the profession that you are now embarking on. And it's my job to start bringing down the wall of your upbringing to show you that your body has this power within it. And that was how he started the class. And I was oh, okay, now that's cool. And so then that's people that decided, hey, I want to go into a healing profession. Forget about the average Joe, or you call barefoot peasants.
Right.
Forget about everybody else. It's okay, wow, my body is self-healing, self-regulating, and that's what I love. What we do is I help people actually experience that power that moves their body. And when their bodies start moving, they're kind of wait a second, what's moving my body here? I'm that's you. Well, I'm not doing that. Well, I know you're consciously not doing it, but your energy, your chi energy, the energy that's already always there. The wind's always there. It's always moving stuff. Now, do you feel the wind? Not all the time. We feel it during storms and stuff like that, or on a, quote, windy day. But the wind's always there. The wind is never not moving, and your body is always being moved. And the more you tap into the movement of that system, you get energy. And we've seen that within people within the electrical businesses. They know how to harness the energy of the wind. Sailors, they know how to harness the energy of the wind. The wind's always there. How do you get the sail in the right position to sail your boat? It's the same thing within the body. If you get the body and the mind in the right positionality, you catch the wind of the energy that feeds and self-regulates your entire body system. And then, just like any good sailor, using that wind to take you wherever you want or wherever the wind's going. And so it works the same way within the human body. And as you tap into that power, you, as a human being, start gaining strength. And that's the cool part about how our system works. And it's just awesome.
It is. Doctor, we got a caller on hold here, regular caller, Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick. I'm not hearing anything.
I have an interest. Yes, can you hear me at all?
Hey, Rick, there you are.
Right.
Hello, there you are. Sorry to interrupt the show. I have an interesting Dr. Myers story. Due diligence demands that I call and tell it. I'm a little nervous about this. I don't want any of this to be about me, although in order to tell the story, I have to give you a little bit of background just to tell you what happened and how it happened. So I'll go as quickly as I can through the boring part. I was 20 years old in 1970, trying desperately to stay out of Vietnam, and going to school, working all day, going to school at night to support myself, and so eventually I joined in the U.S. Army Reserve Unit, the Corps of Engineers, and I was happy as a tornado in a trailer park until I found out I was support for the 101st Airborne. Then I was feeling very vulnerable. I was madly in love with this gal, and still am. And so if we had they were running so many people through Vietnam or through the system at that time that I wound up in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, training with right alongside the Airborne. We had what was called an oversized battalion, and in short, out of whatever it was, 1,200 guys. The physical fitness test scores, there was one guy in the battalion had a perfect score of 600. I was second with a score of 598, and it will not surprise Dr. Myers to find that the way I lost those 2 points was running the mile. I was 4 seconds slow. So fast forward to 1991, the worst year of my life. I've got 4 small children between the ages of 1 and 9, still madly in love with this woman. A lot of stress. Somehow, some way, I herniated. What is it I'm herniating, doctor? I forget. Something in my upper stomach.
Hiatal hernia. So where the stomach goes up inside the chest cavity.
There you go. So when that thing goes, it presses on, I guess, vagus nerve. So my heart racing out of control. Spend the next 3 days in a cardiac intensive care unit where I'm subjected to every insane test these guys can dream of. Over the next 18 months, in and out of every institution you can possibly imagine, finally sent to Barnes Jewish, very prestigious institution, for radio frequency ablation of all things. Now, what they're saying is, Rick, your heart can't beat that fast without 2 electrical pathways, so there must be 2, so we're going to burn one of them out. The only problem is, if they're too close together, we hit them both, you have to spend the rest of your life on a pacemaker. So this is so obviously now seeing my death is imminent. I'm just suffering from depression. They put me on Zoloft, and getting suicidal, take you off that, put you on Xanax. Oh, I feel better now. But the whole time, it's becoming obvious to me that they're not finding the problem, and it's almost becoming obvious to me that they don't want to. They've probably spent between $500,000 and $1 million on me. 18 months later, I'm still suffering with this whole thing. Fast forward to Monday of this week. Monday of this week, we've been working with Dr. Meyers since about Thanksgiving. I have some protocols I go through, some exercises of various kinds. I've added in some of my own, and one is a weight resistance workout. Well, I herniated the same damn thing again. Same deal. Heart racing out of control, absolutely no strength, can't get up off the couch, all I'm seeing is stars. 24 hours later, I get to the doctor, get an adjustment, infrared sauna. Oh, I didn't mention this. Get tested, heart rate, resting heart rate 135, 300 arrhythmias in 3 minutes. That's where I'm at. That is about one arrhythmia for every heartbeat, which is twice too fast. 2 adjustments later, heartbeat where it's supposed to be, and 4 arrhythmias in 3 minutes. So we went from spending 1.5 years thinking I was going to die, spending $500,000, to getting this whole thing taken care of in 24 hours and at a cost of less than $500. I probably left out a lot of stuff, and I apologize for that, and I'm sure Dr. Meyers can fill you in, but I'll bet I have. If you don't know the difference now between allopathic medicine and what Dr. Meyers is doing, I don't know what to say to you guys. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, that's quite a story, Rick. Quite a story.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, you're not kidding, but I'll tell you what, don't think I'm not one grateful puppy, because for a while there I was thinking, oh, hell, here we go again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for calling,
anyway,
Rick.
I'll see. Yeah, not at all. See you in an hour. Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, doctor, these stories, these personal stories, are very powerful things for people to hear and pay attention to. And congratulations, doctor, on helping Rick get his life back.
Thank you. Again, it's Rick's body that did the work.
Right.
Well, he just took the way out of the interference pattern. And his interference pattern was a stressed fascial network that went from the base of his neck, at the base of the skull, all the way down through his tongue, around his heart, through his diaphragm, and where his stomach went. And that fascial network had been weak. And through the stress response that he had done in his lifestyle, he herniated that system again. And for his unique situation, a lot of people have herniations in this area, and they don't exacerbate it to this degree. Rick, on the other hand, it exacerbated it to this degree and completely interfered the vagal nerve response, which controls the heart rate variability, and brainwave frequencies. And so his whole system started crashing. And knowing how the body works, releasing that hernia and setting the body back in motion, utilizing the power that heals the body back in motion, since there's no interference patterns in there now, we see those arrhythmias and that heart rate variability and the brainwave frequencies all come back in line. And we measure that through a machine here at our office called the Max Pulse. It's a phenomenal device that allows me to see how heart rate variability, so how fast and how slow is it beating, your nervous system's response to that, showing you how powerful, how much blood is being pumped from your heart to your body, how much electrical signals are being given from your brain to your heart and back, how elastic are your arteries, are they clogged, do they have plaque around them, and how restful is your heart. Your heart, when it beats and it contracts, like squeeze your fist really hard, okay? Now hold that. Is that fist now getting blood to it? No, because you've contracted all the muscles, and you keep holding it. Your arm's going to turn white. Your hand's going to turn white. Why? Because you're losing all the blood. So when you let go, what happens? Oh, wow, it starts getting red again, and blood came back in it. Well, the heart's the same way. When the heart contracts, it's not getting blood. It's when the heart rests and relaxes that the heart gets that blood back. That's called the pulse wave. Well, if the system is in fatigue and the heart rate variability is off, and you have arrhythmias, the heart muscle itself will not get the proper blood, and you're bound for a heart attack and or stroke. Because at the same time, what that happens is eventually the blood naturally thickens. When your body has arrhythmias like that, and this shows it on the max pulse, is when Rick had that many arrhythmias, his normal waveform that measures that thickness of blood is at a 1.5 out of 7. 7's like really, really clogged, whereas 1's like nothing. And with those 300 arrhythmias, he went from a 1.5 to a 4.75, almost a 5. And so the body naturally thickens everything.
Hold that thought, Doc. We got a break started with Dr. Meyers. Make that first phone call, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. Call his office at 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So the body made the blood thicker when it was seeing this problem happening. And so then after we put the body into motion, then retested, and all the arrhythmias came down 100-fold. The waveform of the thickness of the blood also went from that 4 back up to the 1.7. So the body then, through its own natural processes, liquefied the blood more. So was it a drug that did it? Was it vitamin E that did it? Was it, I don't know what did it. The body did it. The body did it on its own within minutes. I mean, literally minutes. And then stayed that way. And then as the system keeps that energy moving through the body after it's been set in motion and stayed in motion, the body will do these things on its own. And so what created the arrhythmias? Interference created these arrhythmias. What created the thickness of the blood? Interference of the natural flow of the healing part of the body that made the body. It did that. And then what corrected it all? That same energy once the interference was gone. And so the body does all this on its own. I mean, to the degrees that no medication, no surgical approach will ever be able to fix. Because there's so many different variables. The way that Rick's blood went from thick to thin, and the way John's blood will go from thick to thin, and the way Phil's blood will go from thick to thin, is there's a general rule about it, but each pathway, each neurological network is completely different due to Rick, John, or Phil's experience of the world through their experiences of the world that they've been living in. So you can't make that in a lab. Only the innate intelligence of that person's body can do that with its endless resources of infinite power. And you kind of like, okay, well, how's that possible? Well, think about it. How many different drugs are these companies coming out with each year? It's like, okay, well, we have this migraine medication. Oh, we have another migraine medication because the other one, and then we have another one. We have another one because this one works better. And if this one's not working, we could add this drug and this biochemistry, and it works the same way. And people do the same thing with supplements too. It's just like, well, I need this, and then I need this, and then the next thing they know, they have 500 different things in their cabinet, and it's like, but it's supposed to help me, and is it really helping you? And we call them support or supplements for a reason. They're supplementing a helpful hand while you're working through your healing process. Medication should be done the same way. there should be no medication that you should be on any more than a couple weeks to maybe a month or two, while you're then doing the healing work to open up the pathways to get your body better. The only medical physician that I know of this time that's actually publicized that ideology is the guy that wrote The Edge Effect. The book's called The Edge Effect, and I can't remember his last name right now. But it's a great book, really explaining that how drugs, herbs, supplements should be used while you're then working on healing your body through getting into your edge, which he called it, which is getting your body into balance, getting it set into motion.
Myers. Dr. Myers is a chiropractic physician, and the way to get started with him is at first private, no-charge consultation. Call his office, set it up at 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So it's pretty self-evident that the body has the power to do anything and everything that it wants. And so people are like, so it goes beyond eating right. It goes beyond exercise. What those do is they help you get to the places that you want to. So those types of things, eating right. So eating right, for example, I was just working with a client. We have I don't do too many supplemental talks here, but we have a client. I'm going to do that one now, though. Is we have a product here called Restore. What it does is it restores the bacterial cultures of your entire gut function. And what it does mostly is what I really like is it stops the GMO and the Roundup excitotoxic poison from leaking into the bloodstream of your body and basically neutralizes it and puts the ecosystem back into your digestive tract for all the good bacteria to flow. One of my clients, very healthy, bodybuilder, and healthy eater, all these types of things. I had her start on the Restore product a couple months ago, and I just saw her yesterday, and she says, oh, hey, I need Restore. I've been out for 2 weeks. And she's like, and I could really tell the difference and on how when my body didn't have it. And what that told me is like, okay, so here's the cool thing. Now you can see your exposure to the possible GMO/Roundup-laced foods. Even though they're healthy, you know that your environment has that in there because I know from her standpoint, she's a really healthy eater. We know we've gone through her dietary protocol many, many times over. And it's like, so one of the biggest things that happens is that you can just eliminate a lot of that is, one, going more GMO-free. Second is getting a fruit and veggie wash and literally washing your fruits and vegetables and lettuces. The amount of sprayed toxins on those fruits and vegetables is god-awful. And they spray them while they're on the field. They spray them after they get them off the field. And then they just go right to market. And then they go right onto the shelves in the produce section, right into your cart, right onto your kitchen counter, and then right into your cutting board or food. No, and if you didn't wash them, and if you didn't clean up that stuff that was around, it's just as bad as you taking a sandwich in your hand and someone just taking a bottle of Roundup and spraying it and saying, okay, go now eat it. If someone did that to you, you'd look at them like, what the heck you doing?
Yeah, are you crazy?
Are you crazy?
Right.
But because you didn't see it happen, because it happened 5 days ago, 100 miles away, completely out of your sight, out of your mind. Oh, it's at the grocery store. It's safe. It goes into my cart. Oh, it's safer. Oh, it's in my kitchen. It's really safe. It's in my plate now. It's really safe. And then you go eat it. Same thing. They just sprayed it. But because it was out of sight, out of mind, you didn't do anything about it. But it still destroys your gut. It still creates that interference pattern for your innate intelligence to work. Because your innate intelligence is going to go work on fixing it. And it's going to use the power that it has accessible to it, no matter what it is. And most people, it's going to start utilizing that adaptive immune function that is more inflammatory, more swelling, more redness, more tenderness, more pain, more decreased range of motion, more allergenic reaction, more mucus producing, because that's all it's known in terms of how what it had to utilize to formulate an immune function because of the interference patterns that had been there prior. And so instead of using the macrophage system, which it should, but doesn't have access to because of interference patterns. See, that's the really thing that drives people nuts about this. Well, so my body's self-healing, regulating. Why doesn't it do it? Well, because of an interference pattern. Well, it should fix itself if it's so smart. Well, there's a safety network here. It utilizes programming. It has to create an unconscious, conscious, unconscious reflex loop. It goes from an unconscious state to a conscious state to an unconscious state. Reflex loop. Over and over and over and over and over again. So you don't have to think about how to drive your car, ride your bike, walk, breathe, digest, pump your heart. You don't have to think about it. It just does it automatically.
Right.
Well, it does it automatically according to a neurological network that has been developed here on Earth while your body developed from in utero, from your birth, and on through. And getting people's minds back into the state of, remember you were actually a single cell in utero? Is a really big leap, because one of the huge things, and this is a societal issue, is we still don't see that as life. When did my life begin? Like, you're alive right now, and here we have a child in utero where we say, well, that child doesn't really exist because they're not here on Earth yet. At the same time, though, we're looking at you right now, and your issues that you're dealing with right now started when you were in utero. So when did your life begin? There's a huge discrepancy on that, of understanding the value of your human life and when did it begin, when did it start programming itself, and getting that ideology wrapped into your consciousness that you've existed longer than you think you have. Your life started way before you ever thought it did or think it did. And you're experiencing right now in your life interference patterns or growth patterns of amazing life vitality because of that life that you have experienced since the second your life began. And so that whole conversation is huge in understanding when things begin, when things don't begin. And it's not my time and place to have that moral conversation. At the same time, I'm looking at a person's health standpoint, and when did this programming start? This programming started way before you thought it did. And it's interesting. So this happened my first time ever when I was a young kid, just as a massage therapist. I was working on a client, and after I was done working on him, he looks up, he gets around, he's like, where's all those heating pads? Like, what are you talking about, heating pads? He's like, no, you had like 15 heating pads on my body all at one time, and you were moving them around really quickly. I was wondering how you were doing that so quickly. Like, no, I was pretty much just standing in this spot, working on this area. He's like, no. There was way more. Like, honestly, man, it was my hands. There's nothing here in the room. And I've been pretty much standing in this little box right here, working on this area of your body. What did he felt? He felt the energy of whatever working through him, working in him, that was in him, on his body. And the other day, I had a client, had an amazing session, and I was literally told, sit down. And as her body was moving throughout the adjustment, like I told you, I get your body to move, and your body moves because it's always moving. She started moving, and things happened. And I literally sat down, and I was sitting down for about 15 minutes just watching her and holding the space of love for her body to do the work that it needed to do. And she stopped and opened her eyes and looked over at me. It's like, wow, she's more language than that. Like, wow, that was amazing, in complete gratitude. And she's like, wow, you I remember you saying, wow, I'm letting go a lot of karmic stuff now, and then you just started working on me, and you were touching here and there. I'm like, dear, I've been sitting in this chair for 15 minutes. She's just like, no, you haven't. You were touching me. I'm like, no, I wasn't. And her body, and then she got off the table. She's like, I still feel the adjustment happening. And I'm like, okay, I want you to think of this. Here, I am a human being. Here, guiding and supporting and helping you through hands-on work, guided and spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, well-being, health, healing work. Okay? And I'm holding a space for love, for this to happen for you. And we always talk about the power that made the body is healing you, and that comes from God, because you are God, and you're a fractal and holographic image of that God, so obviously you're the same thing, right? She's like, yes. Like, don't you think God is working on you right now? Just as much as I was just working on you as a human being, if God works on that power. She's like, oh my God, you're right. Like, he's always there. The wind's always there. Are we open to it? Do we allow that power to run through our bodies in an experiential way? And I have to be very clear on this. There's a lot of spiritual, religious, earthly, spiritual people that get it on an educational standpoint. And they know that healing is possible on an educational standpoint. However, there's so much interference patterns, just like that teacher of mine who said, how many people have lived this life? No one raises their hand. How many people have lived this life? Everybody raised their hand. The one life that everybody raised their hand with was a healthcare system that has no energy in it. Doesn't believe in the power that made you, can heal you at all. Totally forget the belief system has ever experienced it. And then you're going into a profession and talking and listening to shows and reading books and hearing about all this stuff, but never experiencing it. It's like, oh, that sounds really good for them, but I've never experienced that. Well, you can. It's in you all the time. You just have to let it go, be set free. And interference patterns can happen in many levels. Rick, who understands this concept and has experienced it, experienced a major blockage from an injury that locked into an old belief pattern that kept him stuck in that old system. We cleared that up, and then guess what? The body started re-healing again because it had to eliminate the programs. It still had some old programs still stuck in it from an old injury pattern that hadn't quite healed yet. There is a process of healing that goes on, and that process of healing needs energy. And that energy must be flowing through the body. And if it's not, your body's in fatigue. If your body's in fatigue, you're never going to get to that space. You might read about it, you might hear about it. More than likely, you won't experience it. And getting your body to re-experience that power that made you, that was always already in you, and that you knew when your life began, is where we need to go.
I agree, absolutely, Doctor.
So, I guess that's my rant.
Okay, well, that's a good rant. That's a good rant, because you got people's attention here. And something you mentioned during your rant is the allopathic medicine system, which is now called standard medicine or traditional medicine. It has no energy. It's based on a flawed philosophy that our human body is just a mix of chemicals with a little bit of electricity, and there's no spirituality and no energy above and beyond what can be measured with electrical devices. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely.
Here's our break. We've got time for one more call at 800-313-9443. Visiting with Dr. Phil Meyers. If you're listening and wondering, I wonder if Dr. Meyers can help me, well, that means you're procrastinating. Stop the procrastination, pick up the phone, make that first phone call for that first private no-charge consultation. Here's the number, 314-878-6868. 3 minutes, Doctor.
So as you start tapping into this, you'll start noticing that, and remember the other day, for people that were listening, we talked about the spectrums of concussion to the ADD, ADHD, autistic spectrum, and the earliest spectrum on any of those signals are anxiety, worry, fear, anger, blame, resentment, judgment, hostility towards yourself, your others, and disconnection between yourself and a social disconnection between yourself and others. That's the first sign that something's not right. And when you start owning this power within you, those things start disappearing. And so you're on the next length up. Almost everybody that comes in with any sickness or disease has an underlying issue of one of those things, because it's the beginning of whatever spectrum you have. And so if you're wondering, hey, am I on these spectrums? Do I have interference? Are you experiencing or working in any of those particular issues? If you are, there's interference in you, and you're not allowing the highest and greatest potential of your innate ability to run the show. And old, misconceived, misperceived patterns of doing have now taken charge that no longer serve you, that keep you stuck in that loop. And all they do then is continuing to build inflammation, more swelling, more redness, more tenderness, more pain, more decreased range of motion, and more acidic environments, more immune deficiency problems, more bacterial fungal molds, more Nagelase enzymes, that knock out your immune system, and more brainwave degenerative pathways, lack of memory, loss of function, loss of vitality. Over a period of time, it's just going to wear and tear on you. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, if you have one of those symptomatologies, it's already on its way out. And you have interference patterns. And what are you going to do about it? Start doing something that's going to start correcting that interference pattern.
That's a good place to end, Doctor. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.